Welcome back to 3 Shoe 1. Make sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, and smash that like button. Now let's get into the video.
With long lines of sneakerheads and huge conventions filled with tons of shoes, what's going on with the sneaker market?
We're down by between 3 and 4.5% generally across these markets. Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate. We're red everywhere, essentially, down by 4-5%.
We're down over 16%.
Because we're now down 43%.
What in the world is happening?
So some things might be blown out of proportion, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. In this video, we'll be talking about shoes, some math behind shoes, charts of shoes, the economy, money, and most importantly, shoes. Let's dig in. Let's start off by looking at a shoe that's been out for over a year, the Jordan 1 Retro in the bread toe colorway. Since their release, they've really gone up in price, especially in March 2020 when they almost doubled in their resale value. For this size over the past 12 months, there have been 74 sales, and if we look at the total number of sales in December, we can see that things are definitely slowing down. With December having some of the highest spending of the entire year, something's definitely up. We'll be taking a look at each shoe and then figuring out how many shoes were sold in December versus how many shoes were sold on average per month. Starting off with December, we can see there were 3 sold in size 11.5, and looking at the monthly average, there were around 6.2 shoes sold. We can now take a look at the black gym red colorway, which released in 2019, a few months after the previous shoe. These started off very similar at around 200 and really skyrocketed in March of 2020. In the past 12 months for this size, 96 shoes have been sold. And if we look at past sales, there were not as many as you'd expect for this month either. Now let's look at the Gym Red's numbers for each month and December. For size 11.5 in December, there were 8 total sales. And the monthly average was also 8. While this might be a solid colorway, the Flyknit version of the Jordan 1s never do well. This is definition of a brick.
It's fun.
Now who would buy a brick?
Starting super low with resale, these all of a sudden shot up with a few sales, 3 times retail. In the past 12 months for this size, there have been 5 sales. And looking at the month of December, there was a total of 0 sales. So let's take a look at the averages for the Shadow Flyknit version. As we saw, December had 0 total sales, with the monthly average being 0.42. Switching things up, we can look at the Yeezy 500 in the Supermoon yellow colorway. While the change wasn't as drastic, March 2020 still saw a large increase, considering this shoe is not a popular silhouette or colorway. For the past 12 months for this size, we've seen a total of 35 sales, and looking at the monthly sales for December, there were not too many. For the month of December, as we mentioned before, we're seeing 2 total sales with a monthly average of 2.9. We can now look at a more recent release of the University Blue Jordan 1. These had decent resale at first and kind of have plateaued over the past months. For size 11.5 for the past 12 months, we've seen 2,159 sales. And looking at December, there have not been nearly as many that make up for the monthly average. We can see the December totals as being 95 shoes sold, with the monthly averages being much higher at around 179. Looking at a slightly older shoe, the dark mocha colorway, we can see that these are reselling pretty similarly, with a slight plateau but an overall increase. And we can see the total number of sales being 1,051 for the past 12 months. Looking at the total number of shoes sold in December, it's quite a bit, but still not to be above the monthly average. For December, we got a total number of 70 shoes sold, with the monthly average being around 88 shoes.
Now what?
The following is not financial advice, but here's what I would do, and how I'm planning to make the most of money in this situation. Step 1. Stop buying shoes like these. Step 2. Look for shoes that have a little more time on the market, and shoes that have a bigger impact on the sneaker community. Jordans are a great place to start. It's also worth mentioning that having an origin story behind it definitely helps. Step 3. Be very careful about collaborations. Collaboration shoe typically brings more value to the shoe, but you never know what happens to the actual collaboration person. For shoes that have collaborations with other brands, consider, is the other brand in the collaboration still popular, or maybe something happened with the brand that people don't like? Step 4. Do some research on how shoes are selling, some offers that people are making, and how the shoe is generally performing. If we look at the origin story, we can see that these shoes have had a big difference in value, with some sales over 1,000 and some sales below $500. Depending where you're buying the shoes from, the platform can also have very different bids and asks, so it's good to know what price you think the shoe will go to and what you're willing to pay for it. We can also look at this collaboration shoe between Ben & Jerry's and the Dunk. The lowest someone is willing to sell this for right now is just over $1,700, with the most someone's willing to buy is $1,328. And looking at sales, we can see that prices are all over the place, with one sale getting as low as $1,300. Even in the past 2 months, prices have fluctuated over $150, and in the past 2.5 months, over $500. It's important to be smart with your money and not blow your money on every shoe that releases. It's okay to be picky, and if you can't get the price you want, don't buy it. We're here to make money, and the shoe game is not over.